Hello everyone, Republic Jim here. It's been a while since I've uploaded anything, but I finally have the opportunity and the motivation to get out and do another video. So I'm just walking on my property right now, even though it's kind of gloomy and drippy and stuff. It's still fairly warm, the wind's not blowing, so it's a nice day to get out and stretch my legs a bit. Just carrying my light pack right now, and just a good chance to enjoy myself and get away from everything. But as you can tell from the title of the video, that's not really what this is about. So first of all, I have to be clear on this, that I will be especially careful about my wording and only giving facts and not any opinion, because a certain video platform is very quick to censor anything on this topic that they deem misinformation if there's the slightest chance that you're not presenting provable facts. So everything that I discuss, any of the screenshots that I show, I will provide links in the description, so everything is easy to look up and verify. And I'll just, as I said, stick to absolute facts on this, and all from authoritative sources. So this is just specifically about a Pfizer document and what they had to say in it. So it's directly from the company. In particular, this document is a reissue post-marketing experience. I believe that's the name, but you'll see when I put it up on screen. And of course, as I said, I will link to it. Anyway, the document was published in April of 2021 and covers information up through February of 21. So, and just a little background on the Pfizer documents for anybody that doesn't know. All the internal documents for when they were testing their product and things that they sent to the FDA, that was all subject to a Freedom of Information Act request. Pfizer and FDA requested that it be delayed for quite a few years, and then eventually they requested that it not be released for 75 years, which of course would conveniently be after any of today's adults are dead. So I'm not quite sure what the rationale was on that, but I'm not going to get into it. The fact is that a judge ruled on the case and said that that was an unreasonable request and that they needed to expedite releasing those documents. And they started doing data dumps monthly at the start of the month, and people have been going through all these documents and looking to see what they say, and there's a lot of interesting finds, none of which I'm going to go into right now other than this one particular document. But this one was released at the start of April. I guess the original document had been released at the beginning of March, but for whatever reason, a lot of information was redacted in that one, and they reissued it in April with more information visible. So I've been reading through it, and there's a great deal of information to sort through and try to make sense of, especially for those of us who are not experts. But one thing really jumped out at me, and I have not seen anybody else comment on this, so I thought it was time that somebody drew a little attention to it. This is on page 13 of that document. It's very easy to look up, discussing possible adverse events from the injection, or after the injection, I should say, not necessarily caused by it, but just various adverse events that they were tracking. And this particular one, I've highlighted their definition, their terminology of it. One of the possible things that could happen after getting injections is that people could still test positive for the virus that it is supposed to prevent. And you can see what Pfizer, what their terminology was for that type of event, since become known in the media and everywhere else as a breakthrough. And at the time of this document, you can see they had very few of those, and it was widely proclaimed that that was extremely rare. But nonetheless, just take a look at their definition. They have 3 criteria for that particular event. The first of which is that subject must have had 2 of the injections, the full course, because back at that point in 2021, nobody was even talking about the possibility of needing a 3rd or 4th or annual or anything else. It was 2 shots and done. That was Pfizer's definition. They said that after 2 injections, the person was fully protected. So that's the first criteria, is that must have had 2 doses. All right. Second criteria had to be at least 7 days after getting the 2nd dose. I understand it takes a while for the effect after getting the injection, before the body builds up antibodies and gets that protection from it. So, they said at least 7 days. Fair enough. It makes sense to only start tracking that as an adverse event after the full protection kicks in. Since that time, some of the different public health agencies have modified the definition and have gone to 14 days. That's pretty standard now. A lot of them say must be 14 days post 2nd injection. But regardless of that, this was Pfizer's original documentation. They said at least 7 days, so we'll go with that. And then the third and final criteria for this is a lab-confirmed positive test for the virus that is supposed to be prevented. Anyone that meets all 3 of those criteria, they then classified that with the phrase that is shown in this document here that I've highlighted. And You know, you can make of that what you will. And at the time of this document, they showed that out of all their test subjects, that 16 of them had experienced a lack of efficacy. So, pretty minimal number at the time. But I want to now look at the data we have up to today and compare that using Pfizer's definitions and holding them to that same standard, and we'll see where it's at now, and I'll let you reach your own conclusions. I'm not going to give any opinions here, just strictly based on the actual document and evidence. But for this, I'm going to have to be sitting in front of my computer, so I will do the rest of the video later. Now I'm going to wander about here a little more and relax a bit before I head back to the house. Okay, I'm back at the house, at the computer. First of all, I wanted to just, on that main Pfizer document, just wanted to drop down to page 15, and you can see in that period up through the end of February of 2021 that they had 16 cases out of 42,086 total people that they were following that had that adverse reaction. And I've highlighted down there at the bottom what their conclusion is. So that's what they had to say back then. So what has happened since then? Well, first of all, I need to make it perfectly clear that I understand that not all of the injections by any means were Pfizer. There are other companies too, such as Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca one, and but the public health agencies of different countries don't break it down by which company provided the product. They just give data for whether people test positive and if they were, had 2 doses or more of any of those products. So understand that I'm not saying that this is all Pfizer, but I just want to look at some of the stats and compare that with what their definition was in this document. So first off, put up this one from the United Kingdom, and you'll notice a couple of these ones that I show are not current because some of the public health agencies stopped publishing the data. They said that it could be misinterpreted, and so they didn't want to make that publicly available anymore. So I had to, for the United Kingdom, as one of them, I had to go back to the week 12, or actually the week 13 surveillance report, and that one ran through March 27th of 2022. And I circled all of the positive cases there over on the right-hand side of the table. They break it down by age groups, so there's a whole bunch more numbers there to calculate. But all of the ones in those age groups that had either 2 or 3 doses, and you can feel free to check my math on any of these, but I came up with a total of 1,180,780 that fit the criteria there that Pfizer specified as having had at least 2 doses and over 7 days and testing positive. So that's the United Kingdom, and as I said, I'll put links to all of these down below so you can look them up, not just take my word for it, but these are public record. So then moving on to, this one's not a country, but it's a state in Australia, New South Wales. I could probably track down the data for the entire country, but New South Wales was really easy to find. Much like UK, they stopped publishing all the data with breaking down between doses and that sort of thing. So I had to go back to week 6, which ended February 12th, 2022. But for total cases there with 2 or 3 doses, I circled that, and I come up with a total of 630,055. That's just in the state of New South Wales up through that date in February. Then moving on, this is from New Zealand, which is for the whole country, and they're still publishing this data daily, updating it, so the numbers will continue to grow. But as of today, which is May 15th when I'm recording this, these are the numbers that they have. So for the people classified as fully and the ones with the booster, there's a total there currently of 819,524. And then one final example, our neighbors to the north. This is the stats for all of Canada. Again, they are updating daily, so it is current at the moment. And the ones I've circled there, the grand total for them is 1,001,119. So, just in those 4 examples that I gave for United Kingdom, New South Wales, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, I came up with a grand total of 3,632,478. All of those with at least 2 doses, at least 7 days after the second dose. Many of them at least 14 days. And, of course, all lab test positive. So, over 3.6 million for those 4. Now, I'm not going to speculate about what the numbers are for other countries because either I cannot find that data or, it's just too much work tracking down all these different countries. But keep in mind the areas that I included there. The United Kingdom has a reasonable population. The others are quite a bit less densely populated. And so all in all, this is a relatively small percentage of the population. You could extrapolate how that would play out in really highly densely populated countries and Europe and Asia and some of the other places. But I don't think I need to really go into that anymore. I'm trying to avoid giving any misinformation, just sticking strictly to the facts that I have on hand. But anyway, based on the data that's available, even the CDC director had to admit something that the media has been ignoring or denying. So just going to show this from an interview in January of 2022. Director Walensky saying that they can't prevent transmission anymore. And, I think that's an accurate statement, although some of the other things that she says in the interview are debatable. But again, I'm not going to touch on that. I'm just saying this is the fact that she made this statement, and it fits right in line with the information that I've shown from these countries. So based on that statement from the CDC director and the literally millions of case numbers that I showed in these different screenshots, I just wanted to sum things up by just reminding people exactly how would Pfizer define this in their own words. I'll leave it at that. This has been Republic Jim. I'll talk to you later.